Welcome to DQ Deep Tech. It is now established that deep tech is the way forward to unlock the next tech frontier. Some of the most sought after skills as of now are artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and data analytics, among others. However, there is at present a dearth of talent as far as new age technologies are concerned. Various studies have indicated that companies are struggling to find the right talent and are even willing to pay more for skilled employees. There is therefore an imperative need to skill the youth of the country. To tell us more about what needs to be done in terms of setting up quality talent pipeline for deep tech, it is an absolute pleasure to have with us here today Mr. Arvind Bali, the Chief Executive Officer of Telecom Sector Skill Council. Mr. Bali has been a staunch advocate of digital transformation and also of skilling youth of the country in new age technologies. Good morning, Mr. Bali. Thank you so much for joining us here today. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here with us.
Good morning, Supriya. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Sir, like I said, there is a dearth of talent as far as new age technologies are concerned. What are the gaps in the talent ecosystem with respect to deep tech?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing is the technological change is happening at a very, very fast pace. And most of the time, academia takes time to really catch up, not because they are slow, mainly because it is a system process that they follow. And most of the education what people are getting in the colleges or schools, that is, I'll not say dated, but yes, as far as new tech is concerned, they're not exactly at pace with what is happening in the marketplace. So there's a big realization, and that's why a lot of work is happening on future skill development. And we as TSSC are part of that initiative. And what is really happening is that typically, like the way our earlier education system was, academia and industry, they were working in two different silos, different words altogether. And then there was a big gap. And whatsoever they were teaching in college, they had no, students at least had no exposure to the industry and vice versa. There were some programs, but still, maybe students were taking it too lightly. But now I think that gap is being bridged. And as and when this gap reduces, I think we'll get very good talent. Indian education system is good, but only addition what is required is just not limited to theoretical studies. I think hands-on experience is also required, and a lot of focus is required to develop such skills where people can do, or students can do things with their own hands, or at least do it exactly on the job.
Thank you so much, sir, for shedding light on that. Sir, if India needs to be at par with global countries, there is a need to be ahead of the curve. So how would you say India should approach setting up a quality talent pipeline as far as deep tech is concerned?
So there are some areas where I'll say that India is already ahead of the world. I think we know that all these tech companies are headed by Indians. As such, if you see most of the, at least in telecom, I know all big companies, their global services setup is in India. From India, they are supporting maybe 150 plus countries. So obviously, we have talent. That is why we are able to support all that. But I think your question is more generic, that as compared to the rest of the world, where do we see the skill gap and how we should fill? So the biggest gap what we have found is that maybe historic reason or whatsoever, even engineers, they thought that it'll be good for them to do pure white collar job. They should be just working in an office and that kind of environment. So most of the people were not doing hands-on jobs, and anything which was done, which had little bit of work or labor or hands work involved, people thought that that is below standard or something, which is not really upmarket. So everybody wanted to work in air-conditioned office, and nobody was doing that. And there was a big gap between the salaries of people who are working on shop floor versus people who are working in office space. But if you actually see, word over it is the other way around. People who are white collared, who are working in offices, get lesser salary as compared to JCB driver, or even an ordinary driver, or even a person who is working on installations, electrical job, etc. They make much more money in all developed countries. So in India, the gap has been very, very large, very big. And that's why I think most of people were preferring to work in that kind of environment. But now that change is coming, and everywhere there is a requirement. The biggest change it is coming, and I think you will understand what I'm trying to say here. Maybe 25, 30 years back, uh, even if you are just knew how to speak English or write English, or you had some computer skills, you'll get a good job. And maybe at that time, 10, 12, or 15% of the youth population were in these categories, right? But today, everybody who is coming out of schools or colleges, they can speak English, they can write English, they are computer savvy and all that. So how will they get the jobs? Because then they have to compete with 85% of the people. So to get better jobs, they have to do something which is like no one else can do, like maybe some special skill on some special discipline, and contribute in that area in a big way. So that is something which is happening. And when we talk about India becoming skill capital of the world, I think for that also it is very important that we not only give skills to the youth, we should also certify those skills. Like I was just talking to some friends in Punjab. In Punjab, youth are spending 20-25 lakhs, up to that much money, to go to Canada. And they go to Canada, and then after reaching Canada, they take some special certification courses. Like, for example, if you want to work like an electrician, you have to do electrician course, take a certificate, spend money over there. And it's a huge cost of certification and learning over there. But if we start giving that learning in India and certification in India, one, we can do it at much lower cost. They can do it at a much convenient way and environment. And then, we send them ready-made and skilled people. Same way, like a lot of labor is going from UP and Bihar to Middle East. They go as the laborers, right? But what do they do over there? They are doing fiber laying over there, right? But if we skill them on Fiverr in India and send them there, maybe they'll get better salaries. And that is how they'll be able to compete much better than the workers who are coming from Ukraine, Belarus, Russia, and those countries. So I think that is an area where we should be actually working.
Those were really interesting insights. So thank you so much for sharing them. Sir, you mentioned India becoming the skilling capital of the world. In order to ensure that, there should be a deep tech ecosystem. So what role do various stakeholders like industry, academia, government, and everybody play? And how can we give them an opportunity to scale?
Yeah, so I think we are passing through a phase where I think if you talk to anybody in the industry, they say that they don't get skilled manpower. You talk to youth, they always complain they don't get the jobs. So there's a very, very big gap. Nobody is able to match these two things. So actually, the way, there are matrimonial agencies, you need somebody in between, who can really make their match. So at Telecom Sector Skill Council, we are trying to do that. We are trying to establish a very good industry reach. We have come out with our telco jobs as a portal where all skilled manpower, their data are not only that we post the data, we provide it in a very, very structured manner. Like, for example, if Jio or Airtel needs a fiber technician in some remote area in Bihar, there will be some youth who has been trained in fiber over there and who's willing to work over there. So I think they can very quickly and easily pick up that student. So that way, we are bringing mandate from the industry that what is the jobs they have got, what kind of manpower they need. Most of the industries are well planned. They know that, in future, this is the requirements they'll be having. And then we train those youth in those areas where they need it. We tell them in advance that if you study well, you'll get this job. Like, for example, if you tell a youth that ultimately, if supposing is taking training on handset repair, and if you tell them that, you'll get a job in Apple if you do study well, or if you are among the cream, I'm sure that they'll do their best to really learn that skill so that they get Apple or Samsung as a good organization to work for. So that is exactly what is required. So you have to first get mandates from the industry and understand what salary bracket the youth will get, and then where they need it, because geographical location is also very important, then let the youth know well in advance that this is a job which is available to you in 3 months, 4 months, do a short course and you'll get this job. And that is, I think, where Telecom Sector Skill Council, we are playing a role. And I think there was another part to your question. One is this industry and youth, but then comes colleges. Now, colleges also have got a very, very big role to play. Colleges today, as I was telling in my first response, there'll be always gap with the latest requirement and need. It happens all the time, like students who are studying IT, and I think that is what we have picked up from IT industry. They do computer science or computer programming in the college, but then students, because they are the cream, they know that which language or which SAP module the jobs exist. So parallelly, they do certification, they do private certification. Same way in telecom, we'll be doing the same thing. Like we'll be encouraging youth to know in advance that, okay, if you want to work in, say, routers, then Cisco router certification you can do. Or, if you're going to work in switches, then maybe Ericsson or Huawei or Nokia's switch module, you can additionally study, so that when you go to Airtel, Jio or Vodafone for a job, they know that, oh, you have got this additional certificate. They will immediately take you. You become a ready material for them. So their academia can play a role. Now, as far as government is concerned, I think government is also trying to do a lot of things. And I think there are some path-breaking ideas on which they're working. And CEOs of different skill council are working with NCVT and NSDC, as well as MSDE. We are giving ideas and we are discussing that. So one thing which I think we should pick up from the rest of the world is, on skilling, we should have some kind of a credit system. There should be some kind of a motivation for youth to really do something of his own. Like, for example, if there is a tower technician, 20 years, 15 years, he has been working on that tower. Now, he's a big resource of knowledge. Now, if we ask him that, okay, you pass through a certification and you clear that certification, then he gets some grades with that. And then he start accumulating grades. And supposing if we accumulate total 50 grades, then, he may be a 12th pass or fail, but with 50 grades of different certification, what he has done, we can give him a diploma. Or, like he do something additional, then he make 100 points and he gets an advanced diploma, or maybe he can become a graduate engineer, or he may, like that way there is a complete tree, which he can climb. So that is exactly what is required to be done. So industry, academia, and skill councils, and also government machinery, I think they're all working on these ideas. And I'm very sure that I think we'll see a big change coming up in the industry.
Very interesting, sir. You're right about, credit system being an incentive for youth to reskill. I'm sure, it will really work wonders. So while coming to the government, the government in 2020 came up with a new education policy. The new education policy pays so much emphasis to reskilling and, in new age technologies like artificial intelligence. So how is NEP 2020, helping bridge the talent gap in India?
Yes. So as I was saying that over a period, education has become only in bookish knowledge. That means you read and then you pass a written exam and you get marks and you think that you are educated. Whereas I think there's a big realization that this education is something which has become dated. Now, with this education, you also need hands-on experience. And not only in one field, I think in practically all the field, any field of your taste. If you want to be a fashion designer or fashion technologist, I think it is better to at least feel the fiber, at least design something, do something of your own. But by just reading catalogs, you'll not learn anything. Same way, if you are planning to be an engineer, doing electronics, you have to open up stuff. You have to really touch and feel those things and actually mess up with it and learn something with that. So what new education policy says that besides your normal education, what you're doing, you have to do some vocational education. You have to do something additional, some skill related course you have to do. If you remember, there were 15, 20 or 30 years back, there was a I'll use the word fashion, to do some foreign language with your studies, like normal study, but you also do fashion. You do German language, French language, some language. You're doing it because you thought that you'll get some extra credit. Or if you're going to a foreign university, you'll get some additional marks for that. Now, for anything and everything, if you have done during school time, some skilling related course, I think you'll get advantage. If you're going into electronics, if you're going into IT, if you're going to telecom, if you want to go to fashion, any field you want to go, you have to, with it, you have to pick up some skills and actually get some skill certificates that will give you an added advantage.
So like you were mentioning, industry academia collaborations. I mean, we are seeing a lot of collaborations of late. But do you think that the industry and academia need to rethink their collaboration strategies? If yes, then how should they go about it?
I think as far as this area is concerned, I still see a very, very big gap, absolutely big gap. And I say it in many forums. First time, in 90s when I went to US and I met a lot of successful professionals over there, industries which I was visiting. So, normally you ask a person that, oh my God, you're working in such a good company. How did you get this job? So they say, oh, I came as an apprentice to this company, and for 2 years I was working as apprentice, and Mr. So-and-so liked my work. And he said that, okay, when you become graduate, you come over and join us. Right. And most of the people were getting those kind of gap. And most of the entries into industry or organization was through apprentice route. Whereas in India, it is still something which most of people don't know. Government has come out with a very good NAPS policy, National Apprenticeship Policy. As per that, government is now saying that at least 2.5 to 15% of your intake should be apprentice in the organization. And there are so many benefits government is giving on apprentice. For example, there are no minimum wages requirement, compliance issues are not there because these are all students, they can learn those kind of things. But still, neither academic organizations know about it, no, even some industries also don't know it. So we are running a big campaign educating people. Sometime back, we had a meeting in Niti Ayog, and they were talking about another step ahead of that. They were talking about digital apprenticeship. A lot of work, which can be done even while you need not even go to the industry. For example, in IT, telecom, electronic, many areas, like you can probably become an apprentice for an organization, work from like we see work from home. A lot of youngsters, a lot of youth who are even students, they are working for industries now and they contribute. But supposing a lot of youth start working as apprentice with companies, you get such a big talent, youth, young, energetic talent, and they learn from the organization, and organization benefit from their energy, and then they can benefit. So I personally feel there is a big gap, still a lot of gap, and a lot of work need to be done around that. All skill councils, we are trying to educate industry on that. We are reaching out to colleges, but I think a lot of work need to be done around that.
Thank you so much, sir, for shedding so much light on what is being done in the country to gap the deep tech talent ecosystem. It was an absolute pleasure listening to you. Are there any final comments that you would like to add, sir?
So I'll first of all compliment you for organizing such a great event, and definitely I think this is something which really help bridge the gap between industry, youth, as well as academia. And I know that a lot of people watch such events, they see these videos, and they learn from leaders' experience. We have put so much of time and so much of experience in the industry. And if this experience can be shared with youth, and I think digital media is something which is so good. So all such initiatives I really appreciate. And I always make it a point to share my knowledge with youth. I go to colleges, but I think platform like yours is definitely very useful. And thanks a lot for organizing it. And thanks a lot for inviting me for that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much for those kind words. It'll help us do better. And it was, I'm sure our audience will really, really appreciate all your views, everything that you had to say. Thank you so much for coming over. We truly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.